Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum. I am the Executive Director of New Shelves Books. And here at Free Advice Friday, we talk about everything publishing, marketing. We answer your questions live. So feel free to join us any Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern at newshelves.com/FAF. If you're not able to join us live, maybe it's too early on the West Coast. That's all right too. You can always email in questions, info@newshelves.com, and catch the replay, which does go up on YouTube, which is simply youtube.com/newshelvesbooks. So we'll hope that you join us. And if you have questions, we'd love to get those answered for you. We do have quite a few questions that were emailed in this week. So we're going to jump in with those first. Let me see. We had a question this week about rapid releasing and if it works for children's books. So I have done a webinar recently for the Apex Author Group. I do a monthly marketing webinar for them, and we talked about rapid release, the strategy where you release multiple books in a series in a very short amount of time, typically anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks in between each book. You're rapid releasing those to build up your audience, to make sure that you are actually getting you're getting your audience. You're making sure that your momentum is moving forward. You're not asking your audience to wait a year in between books. You're delivering them all at once so they can binge read, which is kind of what we've been trained to do with YouTube and with Netflix and everything like that. So that strategy typically involves using some price promotions with your ebook, dropping your price down on the ebook, and then kind of have a stepping ladder. So you're either putting it out for free or you're putting out at 99 cents for book one as your hook and your lead in, and then you're stepping up for the series. This has worked very well. Even if you're not rapid release, if you have 3 or more books out in a series, this has worked very well. I know Vicky Sportelli has done this with her Henry Spare Queen trilogy, and it's worked beautifully. And she's wide, she's not in Kindle Unlimited. It has worked for multiple other clients who are on Kindle Unlimited. So for adult books, it absolutely works. But what about kids' books? Does rapid release work for kids' books? And the answer is sometimes it does. There have been several authors who have rapid released. There was one author, and I can't remember her name. I think it was Laura something or another. She released 17 children's books in 1 year. And many of them were in a series, and holy cow, that's a lot of books. And so she did that rapid release strategy, and it did work. However, your pricing has to be a little bit different, because if you're using a discount promotion for your ebook, ebooks are not typically what kids are reading, especially if you have a picture book. So it's a little bit different in that you won't get as many people jumping on board interested in your books with that free or discounted ebook. You can still do it. It'll be a slower jump start, but it is something that you can get going. However, just like with adult fiction, all you have to do is you have to have your first book or your superstar book, the one book in the series that lets people get familiar with your characters. That's the one that you build up all your reviews on. That's one you run ads on. And then you link all your other books to that superstar. You make sure that there are buy links in the back of the book. You make sure that that it's linked on a series page on Amazon. You make it easy for readers to find your book once they fall in love with the first character. And that certainly does work. And a follow-up question to that was, does rapid release work for children's books? Yes, it absolutely can, especially because kids like characters. And if it's a picture book, well, they're reading through it really quickly. If I get my kids a picture book that is focused on summertime and they absolutely love it, and you come out with another book around the fall that's about Halloween or Thanksgiving, well, chances are I'm going to get that one too, because my kids will be ready for new books then, if not even sooner, because again, it's a picture book. And they fall in love with characters. Kids really like the continuity of characters and the familiarity, which is why Berenstain Bears, It's not my favorite, but it's a kid show, Caillou. So many of those things run for so long because kids like that familiarity. However, the follow-up question was, does it make sense ever to discount the first print book in series? And that actually is fairly common, to discount the first print book in series after a year or so, where you are discounting the print book by $1 or $2. So your first book in the series in print, whether it be a children's book or adult, is $1 or $2 discounted from the rest of the series. That does work. I don't think it works as well as ebook promotions tend to, but it can work. You can also do a short discount promotion where you're selling direct from your store. Maybe you're selling direct from your website and you're going to run a Christmas discount on your first book in series or something along those lines. So it can work for print books. It's not as common, and it's a little bit harder to run a discount price promotion on your book if you're not going to drop the price permanently. Yes, Tara. Blue's Clues also drove me nuts. And now I have the mail song stuck in my head, so thank you for that. All right. And Pat says, getting ready to launch my second picture book. I used a launch team for the first book, but are there any other suggestions to launch rather than a launch team? A launch team is a beautiful thing because it's an active participating thing where people have agreed to help you launch your book and to participate. So I have to say that having a launch team will make your life much easier. However, you can rely more heavily on your own paid promotion. So rather than a launch team, what can you do to get the book into a lot of hands all around the same time? What can you do to make sure you have price promotions and ads ready? Do you have Facebook announcements that you can boost and get to a wider audience? The thing that a launch team is most helpful with, though, isn't necessarily spreading the word. What they are wonderful for is reviews, because we know that typically ads don't convert as well when you have 15 or less than 15 Amazon reviews. So if you don't have those reviews and you're planning ads for your launch, it's going to be harder to convert. It's going to be more of an uphill battle. So if it were me and you have a launch team or you have people willing, I would focus that specifically on just leaving reviews. Please leave a review. It's amazing. If people want to share it online, great. But rather than pushing on them for that, just asking them for the reviews will be the jumpstart that you may need to really get your ads running and profitable and converting. I would also say for a children's picture book, go ahead and try a Goodreads giveaway. Also think about if it's a series and there's that continuity, sometimes you actually market your first book. Do a Goodreads giveaway on the first book again. Do ads on the first book, but make sure that the first book is linked to that second book so that there's natural read through if people like your series. And how soon after your book is live should you start running Amazon ads? Well, there you go. You can run them as soon as you'd like. However, if you don't have reviews, they're not going to convert very well. So typically, I don't touch a book for ads unless it's got at least 10 reviews, and I prefer 15. Let's see, I put my ebook and paperback on Amazon and my hardcover on Ingram Spark. Do you see any merit in putting a paperback on Ingram? Is it necessary? So my personal philosophy on that is, yes, I do put my paperbacks on Ingram Spark, and here is why. Because if you hope to have retail sales, retailers like bookstores are often likely to choose a paperback option over a hardcover because it's less expensive, and people are more likely to buy that book because they're buying more and more paperback. Now, there are some exceptions. Young adult books, especially fantasy and sci-fi books, tend to be bought in hardcover as like collector's items or giftable items, and children's books are still bought in hardcover quite a bit. But I'm even seeing there, when you are going through a lot of children's books, I'm seeing more and more people who are buying for themselves who are willing to buy those paperbacks because they don't want to spend $20, $25 on a hardcover when they're going to buy, 15 books in a month. they would rather buy a paperback for $9 or $10 and then, you know, let it go through. If the kids love it, great. If they don't, it's no big deal to pass it on to a neighbor, a cousin, something like that. So it does open your opportunities if you have your paperback available at Ingram through Ingram Spark or through a book distributor. So I do recommend that you put your book in both places. Again, just for that wholesale option. If you're doing libraries typically prefer the hardback, especially for children's books. So not so much consideration there, but retail sales for sure. All right. I had another question here that also involved launches. Poor Kate over here has had a doozy of a launch where a couple of things have just not gone quite as she had hoped. Some books were put out early rather than on pre-order, and some other little bumps on the road. And so Kate asked, what can I do to turn this launch around? When things don't go your way or as you plan for your book launch, how can you turn it around? And there's great news here, because your book goes live when it goes live, but your book launch is when you make it. So if your book is on the market already and it's not quite the big launch that you planned, that's okay. Pick a date in the future and put your focus, your marketing effort on that date. If it's a week from now, if it's a month from now, that's okay. Quietly work on amassing reviews while you are planning a bigger launch, where you have a book signing or a launch party, when you are really going to start your ads, when you are going to start posting all over on social media that the book is available. It's a big deal when you make it a big deal. And I was just talking to someone the other day that there's this idea that books have to come out of the gate just swinging, like they have to come out bestsellers. But I have worked with several authors on marketing campaigns that have led to USA Today bestsellers, on Washington Journal bestsellers, and some other bestsellers. Almost every single one of those bestsellers hit lists a year or more after they were originally published. Sometimes when you do a big launch, you do a big marketing push, it works better to do it a little bit after your original publication date, because when you do that, when you do your big push, when you do ads, when you really get in front of people through blogs and other things so that they know about your book, if you've already quietly been working on reviews and building social proof that way, all of your marketing will be stronger. So I do think you can turn it around. I think you just have to plan from here, pick a date, pick a week when you are going to make the book a big deal, when you are going to launch it. Get blogs, get reviews, get your friends and people who are in books and publishing to post on Instagram with copies of your book, because hey, now they have time to get the print copies, and make it a big deal. You can absolutely do that. The other question from Kate was, if the book goes live on Amazon, but the pre-order date for Ingram Spark was set in the future, can you change that? And the good news is, yes, you can. You can go right into Ingram Spark and change your publication date, which will change the on sale date. So that can absolutely be done to get that book out sooner if you do decide to launch your book sooner and it needs to go on sale sooner. So you do have easy options there. And speaking of Ingram Spark, I think it's for the month of July. I don't think it goes into August. For the month of July, there is a code out where you can upload books for free to Ingram Spark instead of paying the $49 fee. It is all caps, Sweet Savings, with an S on the end. Sweet Savings, all in caps. And that will waive that $49 fee for you when you're uploading a new title to Ingram Spark. So if you've been thinking about getting that paperback edition up, or you've got a new book that you've been thinking about putting up, it's a great time to do it. And yes, Tara, that's new titles only. This will not work for the revision fee, which is $25. So if you're uploading like a new cover, a new interior, something like that, it will not work for that. That's a $25 fee. But for new titles, it does work. Richard is asking if $9.99 is too much for an indie published novel as an ebook. And Richard, that depends. Depends on the book, and it also depends on the long-term marketing strategy. So let's go over that. $9.99 is on the higher end for an indie book. So then the first question is always, is this book niche? Is it something that's like nonfiction that people pay $9.99 because they don't have another place to get it from? Is it fiction? If it's fiction, then you need to see what else is selling in the market. Then if the book is high, and it probably is for an indie book for fiction at $9.99, it's a little high. But then you need to say, well, why is it $9.99? Why is it on the higher end? Is there a pricing strategy involved? And since I'm working with you, I know that there is. $9.99 is high. However, $9.99 on a pre-sale, on a pre-order, gives you the option of getting that book up. So it looks more, I'm trying to think of how to say this. When you put your book up at a higher price and it's going out for reviews, for like Publishers Weekly reviews and other reviews, when you're putting it out for pre-order or for press and PR purposes, if your book is priced higher for whatever reason, it typically looks more legitimate and more professionally published, because professional publishers are typically, or trade publishers are typically putting out their ebooks anywhere from $7.99 to $14.99. It's outrageously high, but that's what's happening, $7.99 to $14.99. So if indie authors are putting their pre-orders up at 99 cents, $2.99, $1.99, that works if you have a strategy around it. I have seen authors who have hit USA Today by doing a pre-order, a really hard push on a pre-order with a discount ebook. That does work. However, when you're trying to get reviews and things like that, it can absolutely hurt you because it doesn't quite fit the standards of what those reviewers are typically looking for. So in your case, Richard, I happen to know that we've got a higher price on that right now. We're going to push out for reviews, but then because it's a higher price at $9.99, we have a lot of wiggle room for discount price promotions like the BookBub new release, which requires a discounted ebook priced between $6.99 and 99 cents to get a feature, but it has to be discounted. There are options for other discounts that will only be offered if it's a discounted. Also, if you have your price at $9.99 and you drop it down and it's the lowest it's been, Amazon gives you a special banner, and they also up your algorithms. So it all depends on your focus in your market. If you know that you've got a big audience and you know you can push pre-orders and you think you can reach anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 pre-orders, then hey, that discount or going on a lower price point for your ebook can certainly help get you on something like a USA Today best-selling list. However, if that is not your market, if that's not your strategy, then a higher priced ebook has a different sort of strategy that can fold in. So it's all about, as I always say, it's like my favorite thing to say, it all depends on your goals. It depends on your book and it depends on your goals. $9.99 is on the higher price end. So I would not recommend that long term. I think that there's pricing options, but also I'll say with indie books, you have options to change your pricing and adjust as needed. I have books that started at $9.99 and we landed on $7.99 as like the optimal sales price. I have books that started at $2.99 and I said, hey, we got to bring this up to $5.99 because sometimes we have perceived value with a book that's priced too low. But as the author and the publisher, you have the opportunity to make those changes and to use different strategy, which is what's awesome about being an indie and having that control. How would a relaunch work if stores don't sell your book within 90 days of the first release and want to return it? Well, that's completely different. If a bookstore has your book, or a gift shop or retail store has your book and it's simply not selling, they're probably not going to give you another chance. If you have returns set up and available, then that book is if it's returned, it's returned, and you really don't have any options there. You can take those returned books if you have them shipped back to you, and you can try to sell them, but that's a little bit different. If you have bookstores taking your book and your book launch isn't quite there, that's a whole different matter. I would say that that's probably not your best planning, and I would go back to the drawing board. I'd go back to your marketing and to your strategy and come up with a new plan that works on your strengths, and then I would reconsider a book launch that works with those strengths. And it may not honestly include bookstores. A lot of authors have these dreams of making it in retail stores, bookstores, airport stores, and it's super cool to be walking along and seeing a book that you worked on or that you wrote, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's the book. I get excited when I see clients' books. I always check. I'm going to be traveling to Orlando next week for the FAPA conference, and I'm so excited. And whenever I go in the airport, I always look at the airport stores for clients' books, and I almost always find at least one, which is fun. I take a picture, I send it to them. It's a good time. So it's fun to see your book on a shelf in a store in an airport, but that also means that you have to make sure that your marketing is strong enough that you are reaching people who are visiting airports and bookstores. You have to make sure that you have a plan, and you have to be willing to accept that if your book doesn't sell, it will most likely be returned. And that certainly has money and business repercussions as well. So you have to be able and willing to accept that part of being on a bookstore shelf, or a retail or an airport store. What are best practices for promoting books that have been out for a year or more while working on your work in progress that won't be ready for publication for a year or more? Backlist books are awesome. You can always sell a backlist book. Unless it's something that is kind of out of style, let's say. There are certain genres and certain books that were really popular a year or two ago that aren't as much anymore. So that may be a little bit harder, but there's still people reading those genres. Sometimes if your book is outdated, especially nonfiction, if your book is outdated, like you've got a book for, I don't know, podiatry, you work on feet, you've got a book for podiatry and you wrote it in 1999. Well, I'm willing to bet some of those practices have changed in the last 23 years. So it would be hard to market that one. However, if you've got a fiction title, you can keep on marketing and keep selling that. You still have a lot of opportunities to sell books. I will say after a couple of years, retail stores and bookstores aren't interested as much. However, direct to consumer sales are still there. Amazon ads, Facebook ads. Find your readers and continue to cultivate that relationship, continue to cultivate your readership list, your email list, so that when you launch your new book, you've got a warm market who already loves your writing that you can reach out to. So you just keep on and keep on marketing. Those books will sell for a long time. My husband really likes, oh, his name just went right out of my head. It's like a mystery thriller author who writes a lot of books that are kind of like treasure hunt kind of stuff. My husband loves his books. He listens to them on audiobook because we know he doesn't actually like read on pages. But it's so funny because he was listening to an audiobook the other day and they are talking about beepers, and they were talking about a car phone, like the ones that came in a suitcase, a briefcase. They were talking about those like it was like cutting edge. He'd just gotten the new cell phone that came in the briefcase. And it was kind of funny because that showed us, I mean, it really was like, wow, this book is kind of old, isn't it? But it's still being bought, it's still being read, because the story is awesome. The story is exciting, and that author has enough books out that there is a readership for the books. There are new books and there are old books, and people will read them both. Your books stop selling when you stop marketing. And marketing may change over time. When you launch a book, if you're trying to hit bestseller lists and certain things, there's certain marketing that works for that goal. But when you're just trying to keep your sales going, you're trying to keep your market warm, it's a different kind of marketing. It means that you are actually going to have to forge relationships with your readers. You're probably going to have to work harder on social media because you don't necessarily have a new book to talk about. You've got to be able to talk about other things. Not that one, Denise. You have to be able to kind of make that happen. You have to work a little bit harder, Amazon ads, Facebook ads. But the good news is you've got more social proof. You should have more reviews. You should have more readers who are, calling you, not calling you, gosh, who calls people anymore? New people who are really still reading your books and finding your books and recommending your books. But a book that is not seen cannot be bought. So as soon as you stop marketing your book, as soon as you stop making sure that your book is seen, is the minute it doesn't even have a chance to be bought anymore. So you have to continue marketing your books even after they've been out in a little while. So you've got to keep on. And if it is something where it's like, okay, this is a little bit older of a book, it's not bringing in the income anymore, find free ways to market, find ways to cross market, put your time into it. Different things like that. But your books can be bought for years and years to come if you continue to market those books. If you don't market them, no one's going to buy them. There are approximately 4 million titles published every year. Every year, 4 million titles on Amazon. That's not necessarily true across the market. A lot of these books are on KDP only for Kindle Unlimited, but 4 million titles a year put out on the market. If you aren't marketing your book, it's not going to sell. I can't tell you how many times people say, I have a really good book. When people read it, they give me great reviews, but no one buys it. Well, what are you doing to market it? It's up there. It's up there. I have great reviews. Well, that's great, but no one's seeing it. It is 1 in 4 million. No one's seeing it, so no one's buying it. That is true. Bob says that 4 million part partially Bob's fault because he is just a machine. And I love it. I'm not complaining, Bob. So you got to keep marketing. You got to keep putting it out there. You got to keep asking for readers and reviewers, and you've got to keep, it's a relationship. I mean, that's really, guys, marriages are work. If you stop working on them, they stop working. And it's a relationship with your reader, and you have to keep working on that relationship or else it goes away. It doesn't keep on. If you don't water a plant, it doesn't grow. I'm really hot on the metaphors today. I'm going to keep it up. All right. Am I taking new clients? New Shelves is taking new clients. We have had quite the busy summer. We had a couple of book projects, as we know, got pushed back because of all sorts of things, print runs and everything else. So we had quite a few projects were pushed back. So we had a busier summer than we were expecting, but we are taking new clients for the fall. We sure are. So you can always reach out. All right, I had another email. Let me see. Actually, just to be excited because I love good news and I was very excited. Someone sent me a screenshot yesterday of a new Google review for New Shelves, which was very nice. So I appreciated that. Let's see. Early release, we talked about that, Kate. We talked about this. We do have questions still. Elizabeth, I saw your questions about Google and setting up Google pages and Google alerts. I don't unfortunately have time to do that on Free Advice Friday, but I do promise it is on my list of how-to videos to make. So I have seen you, I hear you. It's not going to be on Free Advice Friday, but I will get a resource out for you for that. Another question that we had this week was about bookstores. Going back to that, bookstores and conversion rates. I had a consulting session this week, and the person is working on retail stores and bookstores, and this guy's had between 20 and 25 1,000 copies of his book have been sold online in the last, I think it's been a year, maybe it's been 2. So lots of success, lots of sales. And reaching out to bookstores, and he's like, I just feel so discouraged. I just feel like it's not working. What is going on here? And I was like, all right, well, let's put things into perspective. Number one, how many people have you reached out to? Well, I've reached out to 20 people. I've done emails and a couple of calls. Okay, what kind of response have you gotten? Well, I got one in-person book signing, and I have someone else who said they'd stock just a couple copies of the book. Okay, so 2 positive responses. You've reached out to 20 people. That's 10%. I mathed all in my head, by the way. So you got 20% or 10%. See, I messed myself up. 10% on. I was like, 10% for retail stores actually really good. So you're doing better than a lot of people are if you're getting that response. And then I go, but let me ask you. And he said, well, I haven't heard anything from the other 18. Should I follow up? I was like, well, I mean, yes, you can follow up, but when did you send these emails out? Less than a week ago. I was like, okay. Guys, expectations, let's manage those, because most times bookstores and things and retail stores and buyers, they do not typically respond. Number one, a lot of times they don't respond. They'll either buy it or not. They don't want to have a back and forth with you, because if they say no, they don't want to get in a argument with you. The answer is just no. And sometimes they're just busy. Maybe the buyer is out of town on vacation because it's summer and they're not back for a week. So when they come back, they'll see that email. Maybe they've just been really busy. Maybe it's a small indie bookstore and the manager is the owner who is the book buyer, and they've just got life going on and it's been busy. Most of the time, you will not hear back from a buyer. Sometimes they'll just buy it, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll respond. Sometimes you won't hear back from them for a week or 2. It's okay to follow up, but if you follow up, it absolutely needs to be with a just checking in to make sure you didn't need anything else to make your decisions. If you have questions, please let me know. Not a, didn't hear back from you, so I wanted to send this again, which feels kind of berating. We want to make sure that when you respond, it's pleasant, it invites a response rather than sounds a little grumpy. Because remember, when we're sending emails, tone isn't there. So it's very easy for people to read something and be a little off put. So when you follow up, but also give them 2 weeks at minimum, just like agents, just like a lot of people in the book business and publishing and marketing. It's so important to realize that we have been accustomed to Amazon, who's got 24-hour service, to Walmart that's open 24 hours, and they have a whole team across the US and in other countries. We are so used to immediate responses, but almost all book businesses, from publishing to book marketing to book buying and bookstores, so many of them are either small businesses or they're run by a very lean staff. They're run by just a couple of people, agents, publishers, and it takes time. We can't just respond at a drop of a hat. I just about cleared out my inbox yesterday. I opened up my email today to another 74 emails from 7 p.m. last night until 7 a.m. this morning. 74 emails. People need time, so give them a week or 2 and then follow up. And if you're getting a 10% positive response, that is fantastic. So don't give up, keep going, keep doing these opportunities, because you never know who's going to say yes, and you never know when they'll see that email. Maybe they'll respond back in a month. I have had that happen. So follow up, but also give people time. I always tell myself no more contests until one comes along, and it would be awesome with the legit publisher. If I send in 10 pages and I don't win, could I still send to agents through querying? Caroline, I think that you were asking if you like, there are so many contests like the first 10 pages or all sorts of things like book awards and things like that. Can you send that in when it's kind of something that like comes with a publishing deal or whatnot, and then can you still query agents with that same work? And the answer is you can still query agents. You need to let them know that it was submitted, or if it's in a word contest or something like that, a first 10 pages contest, you should absolutely keep in mind that if it comes with a publishing deal, you would need to let any agent know that. Sometimes though, those contests you submit today for like next December, so they can take a really long time. So you can do both at the same time, but you would need to have an open, honest talk. If you do work with an agent, if you do work with a publisher, you need to let them know, I did submit this for whatever contest it is or something like that, because that certainly will matter. But there's nothing to keep you from doing that. There are a lot of times where there are awards for unpublished work. And if you submit for those, that's something you can then use in your query letter to kind of get an agent. So that's a bonus, not a drawback. All right, I'm going to check my email. If you guys have any more questions, drop them in the chat. I think I might have actually gotten through. I think I got through this. Questions about, that's a good one. Questions about direct marketing, about selling direct through your website. I have had quite a few people who have either distribution opportunities, or they would like to sell direct through their website. A question I get often is, how do you get people to buy directly from your website? So a couple of things I would suggest. If you plan to sell directly through your website and you want that to be a main source of commerce, you must optimize your website. You've got to really dig into the SEO. You've got to make your website user friendly. You've got to make it an easy checkout. You want to make it seamless. Having some type of integration like PayPal or something like that is highly recommended, so that people can easily pay without having to pull out their credit card and key it in. Because, as I say all the time, we're kind of late. We're kind of a little bit lazy. We just are. And so the easier it is, the better off we'll be. So I highly recommend that. The other thing I would recommend is, if you're going to sell direct, fantastic. If you want people to go to your website by direct, you need to, number one, send people to your website. If you're running ads, you've got to sell people to your website. However, your conversion will probably be lower than if you send them directly to Amazon, where they can check out on a platform they know. So keep that in mind. Doesn't mean don't do it. It just means you've got to keep that conversion in mind. A lot of times, if you have ebooks and paperback, I will say, hey, keep sending people to your ebook on Amazon, so you can keep getting reviews. You can keep, keep your ranking there for your ebook. And then if you've got your paperback you want to sell direct, send those to your website. The other thing I would recommend is you must have a strong customer base and email list, because people who sell direct are rarely doing it directly from ads. They are selling direct with multiple products because they've got an email list, and they can email them and say, hey, my new book comes out on Tuesday. However, you'd have to do this way in advance. My new book comes out October 1st. However, if you order directly from my website, you'll get a signed copy the week before launch. You're building in incentive for them to buy from you. Or if you buy directly from my website, it's $2 cheaper because we're running a sale, or whatever it may be. But you have to give incentive for them to go to a new platform, and you need that direct contact, that direct buy. And you need to know that you've got products that people will keep coming back for. If you have a backlist, if you have more than one book, or you've got a series, that's the kind of thing that you can kind of use repeat customers for. But if you want to sell direct, you've got to collect email addresses. And a lot of people say, well, that's why I want to sell direct, so I can collect their information. So it's like a catch-22. In which case I'd say email building. You must build your list. Create a free giveaway that you can put up on BookFunnel in exchange for email addresses. Whether it be a short story, or a backlist title ebook, or a downloadable PDF of a organization checklist, or whatever it may be, something that ties into your platform and your books. Create something that you can give away for free in exchange for email addresses. I highly recommend that you do put that as a pop-up or an option on your website, but you also have to promote those out. Run ads on Facebook for that free downloadable giveaway so that you're getting paid with email addresses that you can use later for direct sales from your shop. Put it up on BookFunnel, do group promos. Guys, I have been loving BookFunnel group promos. I have to say I've been running quite a few this summer for clients. These group funnel promos, you put something up for free and then you join a promo where other people in your same genre are also doing the same thing. Now you're supposed to share you get like a tracking link that tracks how many times you share, and that's how you get a reputation on BookFunnel for whether or not you're a good sharer, whether or not you're a good cross promoter. And I have a lot of clients who are like, I don't want to share this link that goes to anywhere from 10 to 300 books. I haven't vetted them. I don't know if they're good or not. I don't necessarily want to email my email list nonstop with these freebie giveaways. And so I said, all right, let's sign you up for this group promo. Let's take your tracking link and let's run a Facebook ad to readers and simply say, hey, looking for a great book to read this summer? Check out this list of 300 titles absolutely free. And we drop your tracking link in there. And we've been boosting it for anywhere from 10 to 20 bucks and putting it out to Facebook. Guys, our tracking links are getting anywhere, depending on the ad spend, anywhere from 50 to over 150 link clicks. And so we are doing our part as that cross promotion, getting it out there, getting traffic to the link, which looks great for your reputation on BookFunnel. Even better if there are 299 other authors doing the same thing and they are sharing it to their newsletter and they're running ads and certain things like that. That's a ton of exposure for your little giveaway, your short story, whatever it may be. And I am seeing anywhere from, I think the least number of new subscribers and downloads that a client got was 100. But I've seen as many as 300 new readers jumping in onto their mailing list and reading the short story, which typically is going to link right in to a first book in series, a new book coming out, or something along those lines. So not only are they getting new email subscribers, anywhere from 100 to 300 subscribers that specifically were interested in them as an author and their works and their books. So 1 to 300 subscribers, but they are also seeing increased sales of their current titles or backlist titles because people have discovered them as an author. And because we've linked in these short stories or these promo giveaways, we've linked in their other books. They are getting read through of series. They're selling old titles that they hadn't sold in a while. So we're also seeing an increase of sales, all for a little bit of work and 10 to 20 bucks. It is the best thing ever. Working very, very well. If you haven't tried that out, I highly recommend that you consider it. I do recommend if you want to build your email list, you need something of value to give away, whether it is a backlist book, a short story that leads into something new, something that people will want to jump onto, and they don't need to have read your other books to understand or to value. I think it's a fantastic way. It's not overwhelming your email list or your newsletter list. And it's a great way to build your list because, okay, so let's just say we get 200 email subscribers. If we did that every month for a year, that's 2,400 new email subscribers for when your next book comes out and you want to let them know, hey, my new book is coming out and it's dropped down to 99 cents just for launch day. Go grab it. You suddenly have this opportunity to increase your sales. Or my new book is coming out and you can order it now through my website on my own e-commerce site. You can go order it now and it's discounted more or whatever it may be, and you're pocketing more because you aren't paying Amazon or you're not paying Barnes and Noble. You are selling directly. That is the power of an email list. It is something, whether you are indie or traditional published, if you're hybrid, if you have hopes of doing anything, maybe you are querying or writing, build your email list now. It is valuable. Publishers and agents are considering how big your email list is, how big your following is, before they will sign you, because social media is great. Having big numbers is great, but having an email list that you can directly reach out to is powerful. It is your contact and you don't have to pay for it. And unlike Facebook, which may or may not show my post to you, I know I can get into your inbox. So build your email list. That is the smartest thing a hopeful author, someone querying, or someone who's publishing or has published books can do. Build your email list so you have a warm market to reach out to. That's my soapbox for today. Let's see, BookLinker just changed their service so that instead of creating a universal Amazon link that goes directly to the local Amazon marketplace, they now go to a landing page where other buying options can be displayed as well. However, if you consider sales analytics, the more clicks you have to have someone make, the more likely you are to lose them. Do you see this update as a good one? It provides more buying options, but adds another click. No, frankly, I don't like this option. So you are completely right here. The more that people have to click, the less likely they are to jump on. It's why I've never been a fan. Drafted Digital has a link that like they're kind of phasing out, but they have a books to read link where you can it places all of your sales spots on one page and people can click through. And I've never really liked that for ads either. Now, if it is, let's say it's on your website or something like that, it's somewhere where you're not pushing most of your sales, it's all right, it's convenient, but I don't like it because it doesn't go direct. And I will say that even if you use Amazon.com link, if I click on Amazon.com link, let's do this differently. If I click on an Amazon UK link and I live in the US, if I click on that link, it will say, this is not your Amazon whatever. Would you like to go to Amazon.com? It will give me that option. Is it one more click? Yes, but I can still see all the book information. I can read the hook. I can see the cover, and it will convert me over. I do know sometimes having the options is convenient. Not everyone reads on Amazon or Kindle, and certainly we don't all buy our print books from there. A lot of us do bookshop.org or Barnes & Noble or Books A Million, whatever it may be. I don't like it. I have to be honest. I wouldn't use it. Certainly not for ads. If you have a specific place or reason to have it there, sure, but I wouldn't use it for ads. It's too many clicks. And I think that it'll lose buyers, it'll lose customers. So I wouldn't use it personally. Other people may disagree with me. You can always push back. Open dialogue is cool, but I wouldn't personally use it. I'd use, if I'm going to promote a book, I'm going to send it directly to Amazon for Amazon. If I'm going to promote the paperback and tell people to go buy it, I'm going to send them directly to bookshop.org. And I'm going to say in my description, go buy at your local indie store. Sometimes it means that you've got more ads running rather than just one because you're running to different markets. But I think it's more effective that way, because if you ask people to keep clicking through, they probably won't. They'll give up unless it's your warm market and they know you and they like you and they know they want your next book in series. They're not going to keep on that far. So not my fave, I have to say. All right, you guys, it's 10:55. I think we ran through all our emailed questions. If you have any last minute questions, drop them in the Q&A, but otherwise we will be back next Friday. I will actually be in Orlando next Friday for the Florida Authors and Publishers Association organization conference. Wow, that was a mouthful. Now we know why they call it FAPA. I will be there next week, so I'll actually be beaming in from Orlando, 13 again. Yes, I am Spock. And we'll be here though. If you have questions, join us live. If you are not able to join us live, again, you can email those in anytime. And I do try to get those through on our live call, so you can watch the replay on YouTube. If you haven't, please subscribe to our YouTube so you get notifications when new videos and how-tos come up. We do put up our replays of Free Advice Friday, but I do a lot of special videos as well, like how to set up the Google author page and alerts, which I'm going to do soon. So keep that in mind. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Stay cool out there, and we'll see you next week. Bye.